Hello boys and girls, and welcome back to another English language lesson for grade 7. And today we want to look at adjectives. And I know you know what adjectives are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's go. Now adjectives. Now adjectives are words which describe a noun. Adjectives give extra information about subject or object of the sentence. So we already know this. We already know when we think about adjectives, we associate them, or we say what? Adjectives are describing words. They are the main device that we use in description. Now, when we describe something or someone or some place to others, we should make them see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or feel what we ourselves have known. To do this, we must select vivid and suitable picture words. And this is very important. So the words that we're using, the adjectives that we're using, should help to create an image in the mind of your readers. They should also be able to associate whatever you're describing with their senses. They might not be able to associate them with all 5, but at least a few, 1 or 2. Now, adjectives serve the purpose of describing people, places, and objects, as mentioned above. Now, we're going to study the following pair of sentences. And your task is to tell me which sentence is more colorful, clearer, and more meaningful. What helps to create a more vivid and interesting picture? Let's go. The first sentence reads, clouds float across the sky. Clouds float across the sky. And the second sentence reads, dark, angry, threatening clouds float across the sky. Dark, angry, threatening clouds float across the sky. Now, looking at those 2 sentences, which one would you say is better written? Sentence 1 or sentence 2? I think we can all agree that sentence 2 is better written, all right? So it's vivid, it's clear, it's colorful. In the first sentence, all we know that these clouds are floating across the sky. But in sentence 2, it describes these clouds. We know that they're dark. And when we see dark clouds, we associate them with rain, a lot of rain. Angry. So it looks like, you know what? These clouds, we can't play with them. These clouds, the rain that's about to come from them, it's going to be very heavy. Threatening, it adds this destructive nature. So using these adjectives, it enhances what we're talking about. It enhances this noun, clouds. It tells us information. A word that we use is modify. Adjectives help to modify nouns or pronouns, or I should say nouns and pronouns. And when we talk about modify, it means to add information to. Let me hear you say modify. Modify. And when we say modify, it means to. It adds information to. Now let's continue. Let's look at another one. So once again, we're going to study the following pairs of sentences. Which sentence presents a more vivid picture of the woman? And we're going to select the words which make the picture more vivid. Sentence 1. A woman knocked at the door. A woman knocked at the door. Let's go to sentence 2. A bent, feeble, ragged old woman knocked at the door. A bent, feeble, ragged old woman knocked at the door. Now, looking at those two sentences, which one is better written? We can agree again that sentence 2 is better written. Because sentence 1 just tells us, you know what, a woman knocked at the door. But sentence 2 now, it gives us a vivid description of this woman. So she's bent, so we get this image that she's an old woman, feeble and ragged. So, you know, her clothes are probably tattered and torn. All right? Good. Let's continue. Most adjectives are used before the noun they describe. Most adjectives, I want us to pay attention to that word, most. It doesn't say all adjectives, but most adjectives are used before the noun they describe. For example, look at the clear sky, the green fields, and tall, majestic trees. Look at that again. So we have the adjective clear, modifying the noun sky. Then we have the adjective green, modifying the noun fields. Then we have the adjectives tall and majestic, modifying the noun trees. All right, let's continue. Look at another example. The tray is filled with ripe bananas, green and purple apples, and a thick cluster of grapes. So we have the adjective ripe, modifying the word bananas. Then we have the adjectives green, purple, modifying the noun apples. Then we have the adjective thick, describing what? These cluster of grapes. All right, next example. These gigantic buildings conceal the beautiful and gorgeous flowery botanic garden behind them. These gigantic buildings conceal the beautiful and gorgeous flowering botanic garden behind them. So we have the adjective gigantic describing or modifying the noun buildings. Then we have the adjectives beautiful and gorgeous modifying the noun garden. All right? Now, some adjectives are used after the nouns they describe. So just now we said what? Most adjectives are used before the noun, and now we're saying that some are used after the noun they describe. All right, now let's look at some examples. The building is old and dilapidated. So we have the adjectives old and dilapidated telling us about or modifying the noun building. Then we have Lisa has been very kind, thoughtful, and considerate with her friends. So we're talking about Lisa. These adjectives are modifying Lisa. And what is it telling us about Lisa? That she is kind, thoughtful, and considerate. We're moving along nicely. Now let's look at the comparison of adjectives, because we can use adjectives to help us compare things. All right, let's go. Now we have seen that adjectives describe and give information about nouns. Adjectives can also give information about the state of the noun. And when we talk about the state of the noun, that's what we're about to dive into. For example, Andy is bigger than Paul. Andy is bigger than Paul. So this is telling us that we already know, okay, Paul is big, but Andy is bigger than him. Example 2. Shireen is prettier than Maureen. So we know Maureen is pretty, but Shireen is prettier. Example 3. Carla is the fattest of the 3 girls. Carla is the fattest of the 3 girls. So you know what? The other two girls, they're fat. One is fatter, but Carla is the fattest. All right? Let's continue. Now, the positive case, it examines one item. For example, she is short. So he's just talking about she, and what about her? She's short. The comparative now compares two items. For example, the car is older than that one. The car is older than that one. So here, the adjective is comparing these two cars, saying that one car is older than the other one. And in the third case, the superlative applies when there are more than two items. For example, she was the most disciplined of all the students present. So we have the superlative adjectives coming in. Most disciplined. What do we have there? Most disciplined of all. So among this group of students, she's the most disciplined. Now, exercise 1. Select the adjectives in these sentences. Point out the nouns they describe. Are you ready? You know I love a good activity. Let's go. The long drought has left the trees bare and leafless. The long drought has left the trees bare and leafless. What is the answer? So I want you to identify the adjectives and indicate which noun they modify. Good. Now what we have? The long drought has left the trees bare and leafless. So we have a long modifying drought. Trees. Then we have what? Trees. That's the noun. And it is being modified by the adjectives what? Bare and leafless. So what about these trees? They are bare and they are leafless. And I like this sentence because in one case, we have the adjective coming before the noun, and in another case, we have the adjectives coming after the noun. Let's go number 2. See the clouds, how dark and gloomy they appear. See the clouds, how dark and gloomy they appear. See the clouds, how dark and gloomy. So what we have? Dark and gloomy, and it's modifying the noun clouds. It's telling us about the clouds. What about them? They're dark and gloomy. Let's continue. The paint was faded and the shutters were broken. The paint was faded and the shutters were broken. So we have the noun paint, and it is being modified by the adjective faded. And then we have the noun shutters being modified by the adjective broken. Number 4. I think your place is dirty, filthy, and squalid. I think your place is dirty, filthy, and squalid. What is the answer? So we have place being the noun, and it is modified by the adjectives dirty, filthy, and squalid. Number 5. I know him as an industrious, willing, and responsible boy. What is the answer? So we have boy being the noun and the adjectives modifying boy, industrious, willing, responsible. So that brings us to the end of exercise 1. Now let's move on to exercise 2. And exercise 2 is asking us to supply a suitable adjective in each of the following sentences. Supply a suitable adjective in each of the following sentences. Now what you'll find, right? You're going to have some sentences and you're going to insert the appropriate adjective. Now I'm just going to give you one example of an adjective that can work. But right where you are, I want you, when you see the sentence, to call out an adjective that you think could work in the context of the sentence. Are you ready? Let's go. My brother is a person. So an adjective needs to go there. Insert an adjective. Call it out. Now, I have one example of an adjective that can go there. Jovial. My brother is a jovial person. All right? You got it? Let's go to sentence 2. Marlene is a girl. Marlene is a girl. Call out an answer. What is an adjective that can go there? Now, one example that I have here is gorgeous. Marlene is a gorgeous girl. Sentence 3. She was always a student. She was always a student. Call out an adjective here. Now I have hardworking. She was always a hardworking student. Sentence 4. Would you buy that shoe? Would you buy that shoe? Call out an adjective. I have expensive. Would you buy that expensive shoe? Number 5. This food is. What do you have? Tasty. This food is tasty. And finally, number 6. The sea is very today. The sea is very today. Insert an adjective there. And I have calm. The sea is very calm today. Now, I hope that you would have enjoyed that. We're not finished. I have one more exercise for you. Exercise 3. We are going to examine the following sentences carefully and determine if they are correct. If not, make the necessary changes. Let's go. Of the 2 girls who entered the beauty contest, Kim was the pretty. Of the 2 girls who entered the beauty contest, Kim was the pretty. Now, if you think this sentence is correct, you put correct at the end of it or say correct. But if you think it's incorrect, We have to correct it. What is your answer? Now, this sentence is incorrect. We have to correct it. Now, if we deal with two girls, which case are we using? Positive, comparative, or superlative? Comparative. So, of the two girls who entered the beauty contest, Kim was the prettier. Now, why do we have that? Now, if we're talking about two girls, we are using which case? Positive, comparative, or superlative? The comparative case. And if it's a comparative case with two, it has to be one what? Prettier. All right, you got it? Let's move on. Number 2. She is a happy person. She is a happy person. Do you think that sentence is correct as it is? Or do you think it needs some adjustment? What is your answer? And the answer is, she is a happy person. The sentence is correct. Nothing is wrong with that sentence. We have it in the positive case. So we have the adjective happy telling us about she. What about she? She's happy. She's a happy person. Let's move on. Among all the people in the audience, Mr. Ali was the taller. Among all the people in the audience, Mr. Ali was the taller. Now, if we talk about among all the people, so that's more than two, we're in the superlative case. So among all the people in the audience, Mr. Ali was the tallest. He was the what? Tallest. Let's wind down. We're winding down. Number 4. Between the two boys, Kwame is the good footballer. Between the two boys, Kwame is the good footballer. What is the answer? Between the two boys, Kwame is the better footballer. Between the two boys, Kwame is the better footballer. Because what? We're dealing with the comparative case. We're comparing two persons here, these two boys. And finally, number 5. This teacher is fairer than the other. This teacher is fairer than the other. What is the answer? This teacher is fairer than the other. Because what? We're in the comparative case. We're comparing this teacher in comparison to another one. So we're comparing two teachers. So it needs to be fairer. All right, boys and girls, I want to thank you for participating in class today. I hope you had a great time. And you know, what I want you to leave this class with is that we know that adjectives, they are describing words. I want you to remember they can come before nouns or they can come after nouns. And remember, they come in different cases. We can have the positive case where we're just describing one person, one thing, one object, or we can have the comparative case, 2, or the superlative case, more than 2. Until we meet again, this is Sir Jared, and I'm out.